Hi, my friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Allie Wilkins. If it's your first time here, I am an oracle, I'm a priestess, I'm a teacher of the ancient feminine, and I work in the Akashic Records and I do mentorship. This channel is really all about remembering the ancient feminine, as well as activating our soul blueprint and really crafting our life based on our soul blueprint. So everything I share is pretty much related to one of those two topics or things in between those two areas that have really supported me in my journey of embodiment and my journey of awakening and remembering and, stepping into our highest selves, our true selves. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if those are topics you're interested in. Today, I have a really phenomenal guest, Sitora Yusufiy. So excited for her to be here and for you guys to introduce you to her. If you haven't met her yet, you'll want to make sure that you follow her on Instagram so you can just kind of keep up with her. She's really a fascinating individual and woman. So we're talking about sidereal astrology and the parasitical nature of the patriarchy. We also talk a lot about the dark feminine in this video, and I want to just say that this isn't a video that I want you to really tap into the embodiment of these topics, particularly the second half of the video where we really talk a lot about the dark feminine and the patriarchal society we live in and how we can work with the dark feminine to do our work as way showers, light workers, teachers, whatever your role might be, artists, creatives, parents, to support the shifting of the patriarchal structure into something that is much more benevolent to everyone. So this conversation is really deep. Some people might think it's really intense. So I would say just to listen to it in a time that you can really fully receive it, you're going to get the most from it that way. That's all I'd like to share about it. Please enjoy the video and let me know how you like it through the comments, through liking, and through just sharing it if you enjoy the video. With no further ado, here we go. Welcome you guys to another YouTube broadcast. I have a very special guest today, Sitora Yusufiy, and we're going to talk again about sidereal astrology, which I know we've touched on before. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Sitora, but first I just want to tell everyone how I kind of stumbled across her and found her. I don't know if it was like 6 months ago or a year ago or something like that, but someone sent me your page, I think for sidereal
Mhm.
astrology, and I was just like, whoa, I can feel this woman's power. It's like deep and embodied and integrated. And through the last 6 months or year, however long it's been, I've just really, really appreciated how she really embodies the dark feminine aspects in such a mature way. And so I was just like, I've got to keep my eye on this one. She's doing big things. So I'm so excited to have you here on the channel today. Do you want to just introduce yourself and tell everybody, who you are, what you do, who you be?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Sitora Yusufiy. So I come from a very interesting indigenous lineage, two indigenous lineages, and so ancient wisdom was embedded within me when I was born. Like it was developed and nurtured. And then at 11, I came to the United States and like went through a culture shock, and then with parents who didn't understand my essence, my empathy, my deep awareness, who didn't know what to do with it. So I plunged into the unknown, into completely losing myself and being getting disconnected from my roots. And I went through like more than a decade of trauma, abuse, trauma, like relationship to relate abusive relationship, and all of the ways that a feminine could be abused, I had to experience without any support through the journey. And then I guess the medicine was like, all right, now we can like recoup all that. And she came into my life, uh, plant medicines, and I went through this intense awakening. And I've always been into astrology since I was a little girl. But what we know is the tropical astrology. So the regular horoscope, zodiacs, always like learning things about it, reading books. Um, it wasn't until going deeper into my womb healing, into um embodying the dark feminine, honoring the dark feminine within me, um, realizing that's who she is, and then finding the different healthy ways to channel her. It wasn't until after that sidereal astrology emerged, um, and I started receiving like information. You know how it happens. You start receiving all these like signs and like people talking about her. And I'm like, I don't know. People are like, oh, you know that they found another constellation, or apparently there's another constellation. And in the beginning, I was like, um, I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I'm sure there are things that we don't know, but it hadn't come to me. But then at a certain point, it was like what, in 2021 or 2022, that it came to me big time, 2022. And I've already had known about it for like a year, but I was in that transition point where I'm like, okay, so I have to switch everything, my entire practice from tropical to like sidereal. And I wasn't even like realizing the amount of transformation that that would mean within me. But when I made that shift, which was activated by a good friend of mine, that day that I put out my first video saying, I have to confess, I am not resonating with tropical astrology anymore. I had to let my followers know that we're really appreciating my astrology guidance and everything, and I had to let them know that I'm shifting out of that and moving into sidereal. That day was like a ceremony for me. I was knocked out for like an hour and a half at some point, just slept, and I felt my cells like decoding and rewriting things. Um, and since then, I'm just witnessing more and more the connection between sidereal astrology, which is, you know, which in essence is that the constellations are not the same size. So in sidereal astrology, you're counting the actual true sizes of the constellations. In tropical astrology, it's all measured 30 degrees to keep it perfectly symmetrical to fit the 12 houses of the astrological chart, which kind of makes it boring when you like really think about it. Then you move out of that into sidereal, and it's like all the constellations are different sizes. So now it's a different timeline. So it's not as predictable. You're not going to know exactly when the planets are going to be where doing what. You have to actually pay attention. You have to actually be present with the nature, with the cosmos, at any given moment. And then the other thing about true sidereal astrology is that it includes Ophiuchus. So that was a big shift, and that's the 13th sign. And we know that 13 is the number of the goddess, um, that a lot of people are afraid of, but it's the number of the dark feminine also. So yeah, it's been a beautiful journey going through all that, becoming aware of it myself, within myself, just because I myself am extremely curious to understand myself and how this planet works, how life works, and whatever I find, I'm like, let's share. Here, hey, look, this is what some people are like, yeah. Some people are like, oh my God, tell me more. So that's where we're at.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm really curious because and I'm sure you've sensed this as well. It feels like there's so much resistance and like kind of like tumultuous energy between astrologers who practice with Western astrology and people who are using sidereal astrology. And there's a lot of even kind of like, I don't want to say like violence because it's not physical, but there's just a lot of resistance towards sidereal astrology. Do you feel like that's just because people are really clinging to this method of knowing that they've like kind of set their identity with? Or what
Yeah,
do you, I'm curious about what you think about that.
absolutely. I forget. that not everybody thinks like I do, um, because it is actually really challenging for people to let go of old identities. It was hard for me to understand that for a long time, that it's actually not as easy for most people to be able to let go of old identities as it has been for me most of my life, because I think I was born with the memory that everything's always changing. That's the only constant that we have. Um, and you'll hear people saying that and sharing these quotes, but like actually embodying it and actually being able to face their ego identities and put them to rest when those have run their course, and be like, all right, you were right at a certain time. Now it's not aligned. Now you're not aligned with the higher truth of the universe. Now it's not resonating, and honoring that within ourselves. A lot of people have resistance in accepting that there are different thoughts, that there are new discoveries, um, ancient discoveries that are emerging that we haven't had the technology to understand, but now we do. And with all the evidence that is already there, literally the information is at your fingertips. Even with that, people are having a resistance to new forms of thought, whether it's energy healing, whether it's true sidereal astrology, whether it's accepting the true energy of the dark feminine. And it's all connected. I think ultimately it's the root of it is accepting um, the essence and the fact that dark feminine is the source of life.
I'm so excited for the rest of this conversation. Okay, where do we go from here? So let's talk about how sidereal astrology and the dark feminine are interconnected.
So for me, well, we're opening up the number 13. And for so long, people had, these myths about 13 being the witch's number or the goddess's number. And yeah, if you're saying that, that also insinuates that it's the number of the dark feminine. And also the 13th constellation being Ophiuchus, which certain schools of thought believe that that's a masculine aspect, or a male holding a snake. So the constellation of Ophiuchus is like a figure, um, is a human figure holding a snake. Some believe it's a male figure, some believe it's a female. Um, Being that it's the 13th sign, and also the hidden sign, and also connected with the serpent energy, I resonate more with the fact that it's a feminine energy, and the hidden feminine energy specifically. Like that's the point of it. It's the unseen. And for so long, the feminine has been repressed, and suppressed and hidden, taken out of like all religious, historic counts. And so she's being unearthed. And in that form, I see true sidereal astrology being the emergence of the dark feminine in that specific science.
Hmm. So people could have their sun sign in that constellation.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the other thing that I learned is that if you go on the official website of NASA, I know NASA, they actually consider Ophiuchus a part of a constellation in the elliptical. So astronomers that practice, like, the real-time movement of the stars, very like precise, calculated, they count Ophiuchus as a constellation in our elliptical. So why would we not count it in astrology, in the practice of astrology?
That is so interesting. I've heard of that constellation, but I didn't know that it was the 13th constellation. I thought it was kind of like an asteroid or something that you could pull into the chart, like to see where it falls in your chart. Yeah.
Ophiuchus?
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's a constellation that again astronomers practice and are aware of, and is a part of the elliptical in our solar system. And it's just been taken out of the tropical astrology chart, which was done I believe, back in the Roman Empire.
So do you think that there's like a malicious energy around the Western, like the tropical zodiac, or trying to kind of keep us out of understanding fully? So we're a little bit off or like not as precise in our understanding and our embodiment. Do you think there's something malicious behind that, or just lack of knowledge, for better way to put it?
You know, I really want to believe that it's a lack of knowledge. Like that's what I want to believe, that we just weren't conscious enough. Um, but then if you really look at like the true evidence that they don't talk about in history, the true historic facts that they don't talk about, um, there are definitely certain beings with certain agendas that have infiltrated, that have interfered or hijacked many things in our history. So if they could have done that, 3,000 years back, and infiltrate and just take out real factual information. Same thing with burning all the ancient, libraries and sacred sites that contain so much information, with burning them and destroying them for their own beliefs, sure. But it's like, you really wonder, like, was that really just unconsciousness, or was there also like a deliberate intention to do that? I don't know if we'll ever know, but I think now there's without a doubt deliberate intention and agenda to keep people at a certain frequency. When it started, I mean, you could kind of have an estimate based on the Kali Yuga, the yugas. But yeah, that's what I've gotten out of it.
Yeah, I love how you said that, how you said, I really want to believe it's not malicious, but then when you go back, and a lot of the stuff I teach is about the shifting from the matriarchal times to the patriarchal times, and we start to see all of that control, and like you were talking about, the lies and manipulation and distortion of history and like destruction of so much historical artifact, and in the books, or the Library of Alexandria, like you mentioned, and that's 35, 4,500 years ago. So for someone who has a little bit of understanding about sidereal astrology, where would you recommend that they start to look at? So just for example, like I've pulled my astro charts a million times, but I have never seen, like, they don't have the 13th
Mm-hmm.
line there. So where would you recommend someone go to look at their chart in that way, aka me?
So I'm sure you could find some astrologers on YouTube that talk about Ophiuchus, but you would have to actually um, mention 13 sign astrology, because there's different schools of sidereal astrology that don't count Ophiuchus as a constellation either. And the other website that I get my information from also is beautiful website called masteringthezodiac.com. And it's created by a man named Athen. And he's a teacher of astrology. He's an astrologer, and he focuses on true sidereal with the 13 signs, including the Ophiuchus as a constellation. But he also created a software for it that you can download. It's only run on PC, so it doesn't work on Macs, but you can download and you can actually have an astrology calculating software on your computer that counts Ophiuchus and the true constellation sizes. And if you don't want to download that, which does cost some money, he has the true sidereal 13 sign astrology chart calculator on his website for free. So just to put in like random dates or birthday, you can look it up and get that done there.
Okay, I can't wait to go look at that. I'll put that link in the description so you can easily access it if you want to look there. Even curious about the teacher you were just talking about, Athen. Um, the sort of stuff he's had to battle even in creating that sort of a software.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, he seems like a great guy. I haven't had too much. I took his course, but I haven't had too much interaction with him. But the fact that he has put that out there, and so far that's the only resource that is out there that I found. Um, and I'm in the process of creating more resources for it with my other friend who we never met, but we have met in dreams, and we've connected through true sidereal astrology. When I started posting the videos of the actual where the moon and the planets are, and he just shared how someone is doing the heavy lifting to shift out of that paradigm, and then we connected, and he's this wizard, like pure wizard, um genius wizard that is like a master of tropical but also true sidereal astrology, and he does everything by hand. Like he
Wow.
doesn't put it in the softwares. I'm like, how do you calculate your transits? And he showed me like the what's his name that he made, the stencil that he made. It's like so amazing. Yeah, he exists. But yeah, so he and I are gonna team up to bring forth birth some true sidereal resources for people to be able to, like, for more majority of the population to be able to transition from the tropical into the sidereal timeline.
That's amazing. It feels like I'm just kind of feeling into in the last 5 years, it feels like there's been such a huge boom, even in astrology being taken a lot more seriously. Like I remember growing up and everyone was like, "Oh, your horoscope, it's just like stupid. It's in like Cosmopolitan magazine. It's not something that actually has this profound spiritual meaning." So then all of us are kind of starting to learn about our chart and more than just our sun sign and where different placements are. And then for me, I kind of how similar to what you shared, I had a teacher who mentioned sidereal and mentioned like, yeah, the tropical zodiac is based on a frozen map from from I think 2000 years ago. And you can also look at this and it's like the little, just like you were saying, the little seeds are dropping in. Um, and then we learn sidereal. And now, like for me, for example, or other people who are watching this, you find there's a 13th constellation and like, oh, how does that shift my understanding of my chart? I'm curious, do you feel, I've had a teacher before who said it this way, and she said she looked at the Western chart in relation to the Western world and sort of like the capitalistic society and kind of seeing what would um, be happening in the external. And then she was working with like Vedic charts specifically, Vedic charts as being more of the alignment of the soul. Do you agree with that, or like, would you ever work with the Western chart to look at anything with the knowledge you have now?
The only way that I would work, or that I still do work with the Western, is only if my client is still there and choosing to stay there, choosing to work through that template. I give each client a choice. What are we doing? Are we staying in the tropical chart, which you have the choice, or are we shifting into the sidereal? I give them that choice. Other than that, like when I'm making the collective reports as my offerings for the collective, I don't, nothing in me calls me to integrate or talk about the tropical chart. And I know I have good friends, very close friends, that are practicing tropical astrology, and they're fully aware why I do it, and I'm fully aware why they're doing it. They're still trying to help the people that are just coming into tropical astrology, because yes, as you said, even people taking astrology, the whole idea of astrology more seriously than we have been in the past, what, 3 to 4 years, that's a huge step already. But then there are some of us that have come into this incarnation with a very clear mission. And so our journey was like 7 times more intense than you would say the average person, and like 7 times more accelerated in learning things and then having to integrate them so that we could have enough tools ready to be able to share with others for longer periods of time while we're incarnated here. That's, you know, that's you and me. um and so while I've known astrology and practiced it, you know, most of my life since I was a little girl, um I also shifted out of that, and now I'm in, but when I shift out of something, I'm like very like tackling it. We're going in, we're going deep, and we're shifting. There's no like in between, very little of that space. So I know personally, and I fully own this, that I can be very intense, that I can be very fierce, um, and extremely like high energy for a lot of people that are still just like becoming aware. So I have to take note of that and be aware of where my audience is at with the information that I'm sharing with them.
Well, I adore that about you just for that. I think that that's so special. I really do. And so important and so needed. So I was kind of hearing my guides chime in as you were talking about this shifting. And I feel like someone watching this, or maybe this is important for us to speak about or something. Um, what I'm hearing you say in your shares is that you shift very quickly and there's not resistance towards it. And sometimes, so for example, like someone who potentially is practicing Western astrology, or someone who's identified with one way of being, and then they have insight or inspiration of like, oh, there it could be another way. Oh, maybe this is true. Oh, maybe this is a possibility. But then you choose to like cling to that old identity because it's so scary to go into the new one. With the example of someone who's practicing Western astrology, it's like, well, my whole business is based on this. How do I shift from that? What would that mean about me? How would that's a lot of work to do that. What if like I'm wrong about other things? I think that's a big theme sometimes when we're shifting. Um, and what I'm hearing you say as sort of a skill of the dark feminine, but also just a skill of someone who's able to accelerate quickly without like getting stuck in the tar like substance when they're really meant to be moving forward. Um, so anyone who's listening to this, if you have some sort of situation like that in your life, whether it's this topic or something different, maybe noticing where it is that you could be holding on and clinging out of fear when there's something else kind of over here that's like, hey, this is actually where you're meant to be moving forward, even if it's a centimeter a day, or maybe like Sitora, it's just you, nope, we're just going there. I really resonate with that as well. It's like, no, I'm feeling inspired towards this. Why would I hold on to this old stinky thing, even if it's served me so well and so beautifully for so long? Is there anything you would want to add to that? I feel like someone watching this is like very important.
So from my experience or from the things that I've integrated in that, the thing that keeps people stuck in old ways is that attachment to their ego identity, that attachment to their identities, and to the expectations around those identities, and the relationships around those identities. And God forbid you're wrong about something. To me, it's like, okay, so what if I was wrong? Like, if I was wrong about something, I'm going to take note of it. I'm going to be present with it. And I'm going to be like, okay, I was wrong about that. There's a better way to do it. All right, like, let's do it. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that serious. You're not that serious. Like, life is not that serious to be holding on to these like human identities and egos of how you should be, how you should look, who you should be, what role you should carry. All of these things we hold on to. um I guess it gives us a sense of security, a false sense of security, comfortability, or comfort zones, like staying with the familiar, staying with what we know. We've all been programmed and conditioned in that way. And it's just your ability to be able to break through that pattern. The main pattern there is detaching from old identities and everything that means with that. If you can really focus in on that and tackle that and be okay with changing your identity, with dressing differently one day because you now don't resonate with how you used to dress or how you used to look and you want to change something. um that's a more superficial level of it, but just to give you an example, but being okay with that, accepting the core truth of reality that change is actually the only constant. That's We're always learning something new. Our essence as humans, as life forms, is to experience, explore, and collect data, and then integrate it to experience more, to expand more, to explore more. That's really the essence of everything that we're doing. So that insinuates that the more you can shift out of your yesterday's paradigm, the more you can change, the more you can experience and learn and gather information, the better for the all. But yeah, it's just people are really stuck in the physical realm of ego and identity attachments. um and yes, that was definitely heavily influenced for people to be that way. So there is that. But we do have the free will, the responsibility, and the power to remember and to choose a different way.
The word responsibility really like rings for me, especially I think on this channel, there's a lot of people who are light workers, way showers, teachers, whatever word you want to use. Whether that's what they're doing for their full-time job and their sole purpose mission, or just, you're inspiring someone in your life. Um, for me, the responsibility piece feels so important because if you're watching this channel, you are a light worker of some capacity for sure. And there is an important role that we, even though sometimes it's like, oh, little old me, or I'm just like, I'm this, we might be stuck in these identities of like, I'm not that important, but you are. And the responsibility, I think, as teachers and um, stewards of the higher consciousness that's wanting to be birthed, like we have to be willing to shift quickly because we were talking about before this, there's so many big new energies coming in, and we're seeing how quickly energetic technology is changing. Even like in my work in the Akashic Records, every 6 months, I'm like, I could not have done that 6 months ago. Where did that come from? Like there's these new developments and new things that are being made possible to us and for us. But if we're clinging to that old identity or the old ways of doing things, we're missing out on so much. And I also love how you brought in, I felt like my fairy self light up of when you were talking about like, it's just not that serious. Who cares? Let go of it. Like it's not that serious, just lighten up. So maybe everyone just shake out your hands a little.
Yeah,
Just
I do it all
be
the time.
light.
And I tell my daughter too. She's very sensitive, so she takes what other people say like deep into her, and that's like a trait of an empath, of a sensitive being. And I have to thank God she has me to guide her and be like, baby, that's their stuff. You don't have to take it on. You have a choice not to let it affect you. Like, sure, it's gonna hurt you because you're human and you feel things, but you have different tools. Like, you can get up and just jump around or put your favorite music video. She likes Disney music videos, so she puts it on and she dances and she sings. I'm like, do that. And then I'll come home and she's like, mommy, I did what you told me to do. I did the dancing and then I felt so much better. I'm like, there you go. Just remember that we're also playing in this life, in this world.
Beautiful. I'd love to go. I feel the dark feminine and just like Lilith, particularly like Hello. What did you forget about me? So, let's talk about like the patriarchal aspects. I know this is one of the things that you're just very well versed in, looking at how sidereal astrology, or really just whatever's coming up for you now, as we're experiencing so many shifts and kind of recognizing like the parasitical nature of the patriarchal structure we have, which I just want to like toss in here real quick. That's not a representation of the masculine energy. It's like extraordinarily toxic, wounded masculine. It's not healthy. And I would also say it's like featuring wounded feminine, toxic feminine. It's just like a toxic, sick system. So if anyone's like, oh, patriarchy talk, like you hate men, no, it's not about that at all. It's about parasitical structures guiding us and leading us and teaching us. And I don't think any of those people are here, but just in case. So where would you like to start with this convo?
I love how you had to put that disclaimer there because you already like faced some serious hurt egos, which is a big part of what we're doing here. The other day I had this back and forth um with this man who is doing medicine work apparently, and he's also from the Middle East like me, and I was going, I was letting someone know, I was telling this other woman to stop idolizing parasites. And most of the celebrities that we see in the mainstream, most of the politicians that are like really glorified are parasites. Like, I know I'm being very blunt about it. It's like it shatters a lot of people's illusions, but if you really do the homework, which I have been doing for the past more than a decade, going down these rabbit holes, whatever's glorified on whoever's glorified on mainstream, even if it's humanitarian causes, chances are 90% of the chance they're parasite. So all I'm saying is stop idolizing anyone, but especially parasites. And this dude comes in and he's like, you just told this follower to go kill herself. And I'm like, I reflected her to her the energy that she's supporting, which is depopulation. And I reflected to her and I said, how would that look if you actually walked your talk? If you agree with depopulation, wouldn't that mean that you shouldn't exist either, or that your existence is harmful as well? So how would that look? If I'm leading, I should lead by example. No. Like, so I told him, I'm like, we've all been conditioned with this parasitic patriarchal. That's the word that I use for it. That's the most clear word to really describe this entire patriarchal structure and the energy that they indoctrinated populations with. It's a parasitic energy. So until you wake up, you're functioning like a parasite, unfortunately. So I'm telling this guy, we've been conditioned with this parasitic patriarchal energy, and the dark feminine is demanding that we listen to her and learn from her. So I said, thank you for recommending me your masculine teacher. Maybe he's been in plant medicines for 4 years, but I'm learning from the plants and I'm learning from the womb of the earth. Thank you very much. And he went and complained to someone saying that I called him a parasite when I called it a parasitic patriarchal structure. And I'm like, wow, like, wow. But hey, if the shoe fits, like, that means there's something there as well. I didn't actually call you a parasite, but it's triggering you. You're literally taking it on because there's something within you that's resonating with that. So that has to be looked at as well, ultimately. So yes, unfortunately, the parasitic patriarchy has infiltrated all like the different realms of the earth for a long time. Even those that we think are the more pure ones or the indigenous ones or like, the sacred spaces, even those spaces have been infiltrated with the parasitic patriarchal consciousness. or unconsciousness. Because for a long time, even in the indigenous traditions that originally have all been matriarchal, have turned patriarchal. And for thousands of years, you have, the Amazonian indigenous, the North American natives, and the natives of the Far East, all patriarchal. All patriarchal. It's just now that they're starting to switch, and they're starting to understand the shift. And those of them, the elder men, the ones that are doing their best to truly embody the healthy patriarchy, are stepping down, accepting the true matriarchal nature of everything, and passing the torch, the guiding staff, to the feminine. It's been done in North America and by the native tribes in North America, where Chief of Chiefs Crow, Chief Crow Dog, passed down the torch to a young female native. And in South America, in the indigenous of the Amazon, Putani, in the Yawanawa, after a long time of it just only being male shamans, only being male chiefs, finally they passed the torch to the female descendant of the lineage of shamans in their tribe, which is Putani, and she's taken it by storm. Like, I have chills just thinking about it, how she's leading and how she's reinstating the balance. And their tribe, specifically the Yawanawa, are the leading tribe in the Amazonian rainforest that are defending the Amazon right now, and that are putting and demanding the rights for indigenous people. So what people have to understand is that it's not just men that have been infected by this parasitic energy. And yes, I mean, when I say until you wake up, until you remember that the source is within you, that you don't need a source outside of yourself, that you don't need a savior outside of yourself, until you remember that, naturally you're a parasite, because you think that source is outside of you, that energy is outside of you, and that you need something outside of you to recharge your energy, to feed off of. So you're looking for love partners, looking for love that you could give yourself, but you're looking for it outside of yourself. You're looking for a messiah from your religion that's supposed to resurrect and come save you, instead of rebirthing yourself into that energy that you have the capacity to. You're looking for some sort of savior for whatever in your life to come from outside, or some sort of energy. And and the only thing that there is that this energy, this parasitic energy, unfortunately takes more of a hold on men, because of the fact that they don't have a physical womb. They do have an energetic womb. They don't have a physical womb that really anchors them into that truth, that source is inside of them. That source is continuously recycling life, regenerating, rebirthing, cleansing, healing inside of them, as women have in their physical bodies. So women have that direct advantage and access. So it's easier for them to remember that, and to be able to generate that life force energy, to know that the source is within them. So it's easier for women to come back to that truth. And so naturally, because men are further from that, and it's harder for them to remember that, it's usually the men that are narcissists. There are many women narcissists as well. Don't get me wrong. There are many women that are in the toxic masculine, but usually, because of these physiological things, that's how it is. But one of the things I'm just like, wow about is how fragile the egos are. Because if someone, if someone told me the truth, like, hey, until you wake up and you remember your power and you reclaim your power and remember that source and energy is within you, you're going to be a parasite. You're going to be siphoning off everything outside and you're never going to be satisfied. I'm like, all right, that like has truth in it. And I can fully accept that until I went through my deep awakening back in 2012, that's how I was. I was seeking love outside of myself and I was never satisfied. And then on top of that, because I'm also an empath, because I was also, born with this deeper awareness, and I had this energy within me as a female, as a womb, my energy was also being siphoned. So you're a parasite in this parasitic patriarchal structure until you wake up and you reclaim that power and you remember that you don't need anyone outside of yourself to feed off.
Mic drop. Okay, let us know in the comments, those of you watching this, what that brought up for you. I haven't heard anyone like reference the patriarchal structure as parasitic. So true. I've always called it this very narcissistic structure. And parasitic also very much resonates for me. Also, for you guys listening, there's a book called The Great Cosmic Mother. You've got to read it. It's thick. It is hard to read. I was like hard depressed after reading it for a little bit. So maybe be in the right state of mind when you read it because it's a lot. And after you read that book, so much of your perspective is going to shift, especially around historically, like what we've been told about women. There's just that book actually prompted my whole desire to teach about the ancient feminine. Like, it's a phenomenal book. Every woman should read it, and every
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
So how you were speaking about the celebrities, I feel like everyone watching this knows this, knows what you were saying, but I had this shocking moment the other day watching something about Jane Goodall, the woman who's like saved the chimpanzees or something. And for me, I've always just had this thought of her as like, oh, she's this old sweet woman who's like so precious and like innocent. And you had mentioned this, like looking at humanitarian influences and popular people. And then I watched this thing about her talking about depopulation and how like all the efforts we have to take. And I was just like, what? Like, just hard screech and turn. Like, wow, that's shocking to me that a woman that I would see in this capacity, um, I'm just like, whoa. I could see that being with famous celebrities, but that just like really took me for a turn.
That's exactly the woman that it's being revealed now, I guess. So she's coming up. That's who I had shared on my page. I
Mm.
reposted a video of someone else talking sharing an excerpt from Jane Goodall saying that there's too many people in the world and that she really wishes that we could do something about it.
That's probably where I saw it on your page.
And then she's doing all these signs that, symbolism
Mm.
that always, like, you can do many symbols, you can do you mudras and all these things, but it always affiliates you with a certain group. And this group is known as the globalists, as the Illuminati, all of people that are connected in the World Economic Forum. And so, yes, and when I saw that, and there's this internal filter that I have, especially with these things, like I immediately know, I'm like, like this is, this, like, yeah, like I have no hesitation in sharing this because inside me the source says, yeah, this is true. She's painted as this glorified humanitarian animal conservationist, but there's a deeper, darker truth there. And so I shared it without hesitation, and it hurt so many people, and they started defending her, and I'm like, does she pay your bills? Like, what are we doing? Why? Why? Why would you be so attached to someone? Like, okay, sure, she's glorified, That's great, but like, why would you be attached to an idea of when you know already that the mainstream is such a stage to an idea that the mainstream proposes and you create a conflict because you don't want to believe that she could actually have a dark shadow side that doesn't give a heck about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people that, throughout my like research and reading, I'm like, wow. Wow. And the thing is, a lot of these humanitarian and charity organizations, um, especially like the really big ones, they're actually cut guises, they're covers for laundering trafficking money, like, and other illegal forms of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and once you start actually learning and like looking at all of this stuff, it's like you I think in the beginning there's a shock for people, and there can be that clinging energy of like, what you were saying, defending Jane Goodall, or we see this with like Swifties, like defending Taylor Swift like to the death. And once you start seeing so much more of the truth of what's actually happening, it's like that mask falls down, and I just kind of feel simultaneously like the womb starts to guide you so much more to show you what is actually true beneath things that can be so expertly crafted to look a certain way or to create these personas. I'll just share to be transparent with everyone. Like, I've felt this way about celebrities for a long time, but I have always loved Beyonce. And just recently, I was like, all right, I have like so many people were like, she's doing all these things. And I'm like, don't talk about her. Like, I can't face the truth with her. Anyone else? And yeah, just recently with all the stuff with Palestine and her like being silent, I'm just like, I can't, I have to give you up. I can't do it anymore. So just so everyone knows that it's not everyone has been so easy for me to to give up. But
Yeah, and it's like they really know how to pull at people's emotional strings and attachment and like make that relatable relationship and connection, through the media. It's like the claws, the hooks. Because all these artists are amazing. Beyonce is amazing. She's an amazing artist. She has a powerful talent and a powerful voice and a powerful presence, which I'm sure wasn't always influenced. I'm sure wasn't always influenced. But then you go in through that tunnel, through that journey, and you have a choice. And a lot of all celebrities are faced with that. You have a choice on uh, you know, which side of, I guess, the history or her story you want to be on, whether it's for truth, for love, for the balance, harmony, and equality of life, or it's for self-service, just having everything that you want and more of that, and just worrying about that only. That's the two sides. It's about being open, being aware of the collective, of the oneness, and so understanding that your presence here is not just for you, and being in service to all life because it's one, or being in service just to your false ego identity, temporary illusion of this human reality. And
yeah,
actually enough, a lot of celebrities, like, I would think that, like, I mean, I guess they go through a really hard part. But yeah, with everything that they know, I'm like, wow, like, this, you should know that this human life is pretty temporary. You're gonna have all the karma, and you're still choosing that.
yeah, to me it feels like the desire for fame and power and fortune with that talent. It's like, for me, it's the question of like, what am I willing to sacrifice to get what I want? And which, like you were saying, which side am I willing to go on to support that. And I think, you know, we can point the finger outside a lot. It's very easy to do that. So how can we look at ourselves also of, for me, when I was still like working in a corporate job, I was like, I am literally selling myself for money to a company I couldn't give two fucks about. They couldn't give two fucks about me. I'm spending my valuable time here. I'm sacrificing this all so that I feel safe having a paycheck. And first it was like the awareness of that. And then it became more and more painful. And it's like, there's something else that wants to be created. Um, I'm not going to sacrifice myself for the stability or security of money in this form because that's how I've been taught that it's going to come through. So maybe anyone listening thinking about where are you potentially sacrificing, I would call this your soul blueprint, what really wants to be birthed through you. Where are you potentially sacrificing that for what you think you should do? Or where are you allowing even like demonic energy or that parasitical energy to come in through your money or through the things that you're desiring, whether that's like sexual experience, money, um, you know, getting like popularity from something, but you have to do something that you don't want to do in order to get it. Like, where are we willing to sacrifice our values? That's probably it in a short term. Where are we willing to sacrifice our values? And can we live with ourselves with that? So that might be something for us to consider, everyone listening.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like maybe that's a stopping point. Is there anything else that you want to share before we I want to just respect your time. I know you've been with us for a little bit now.
Um, just that my intention with all the work that I do, with speaking to people, with sharing my videos, is my deepest intention is for everyone to remember who they are, the truth of who they are, um, that they are source embodied in human form, and that with that, their potential is infinite to create heaven on earth. It's like since I was a kid, I knew, like I was 6 years old and I'm like, this is not how it is. It's like, you know, past and future doesn't really exist. They're parallel realities all happening in the now. So then I was tapped into like the other dimensions to remember, like, we could be doing so much better than this. This is like probably the lowest of the low, is what I thought when I was like 6 years old. And I know we're in that journey of remembering and returning to our truth, to our source, to our origin, and recreating that heaven on earth. But yeah, it's a trip.
And I'm just going to drop this in here for the last thing. So that memory or that knowing that we have sometimes that we're capable of so much more, but then like the government in our history books are telling us this is the most advanced civilization has ever been. And the ancestors are just like cackling. It's
Oh no, it's actually literally the lowest
yeah.
of consciousness where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at the real journey of the planet, the consciousness on the planet, the evolution, the species, we're literally at the cycle where it's the lowest, where, some people will know this, but it's the Kali Yuga. We're coming out of it, but that's where we have been. So we have been at the lowest consciousness, and the Abrahamic religions, which is the pillars, I guess, the rigid pillars of this parasitic patriarchal structure, they were established at the beginning of our how should I say this? At the beginning of our descent into the lowest phase of our consciousness. So they're literally the manifestation of unconsciousness, the Abrahamic religions. They're the manifestation of having completely forgotten our truth.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to know more about that, I actually have another video that I'll tag up here if you want to learn about the cycles that she's talking about. It's super fascinating. That might give you a little bit more context if you're not sure, but That's so interesting. I haven't thought about it that way before as those being the pillars. That's so true.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, you know, the Abrahamic religion started with Judaism, but at that moment there was an infiltration that took place on the earth, and that's when like a really parasitic energy came in. This is my theory, short, like, you know, with all the research that I've done, and the conclusions that I've come to, that at that point a certain species infiltrated the earth, and they literally had to hijack uh, an ancient tradition or religion or way of being and do their own thing. And the way the Abrahamic religions first came into being was actually through sacrificing children.
So you guys can go down that chain of events to look at how the sacrifice of children is still being utilized today in different ways, under different masks, under different guises. That is a huge thing too for us to be able to see. Like that's like just a bomb that drops when you start to actually recognize the abuse that's happened through religious culture. I mean, other than the obvious, just the psychological effects. And again, that if you guys want to learn about this more, the book, The Great Cosmic Mother, phenomenal resource. I have a masterclass called Return to Goddess that I, studied for 500 years about to put together for you. So you can also watch that. Um, so also I just want to say if anyone here is watching this and you're feeling like, how do I get to the space of embodiment that you might see Sitora or myself in? This is where like having guidance or having support from people who are just a couple steps ahead of you helps just tremendously, whether that's through, reading from an author or hiring a mentor or having a session with someone. Like it can speed up so much and help just like remove the gunk from between your cycles or how it can just support so much. So Tawada, let's talk about how you help people, how you offer your support and your gifting, if
Uh,
anyone wants to work with her.
sure. So I do mentorships, which you can sign up through my Instagram or through my website. And then I do sessions. If you don't want to commit to a mentorship, there are sessions that I do that could be just astrology or astrology and shamanism and herbalism and integrating all of that. And then I do in-person retreats and ceremonies, that are more intense and more for people that are like ready to dive in firsthand, just like are ready for complete transformation. It's more accelerated, but yeah, for now that's what I have going.
And I'll put all of your information in the description. So you guys highly recommend following her on Instagram at minimum. Um, and checking out all of these different things. I'll put your link tree in there so people can always see, if the offers change or shift because we're always evolving and maybe offering new things. Someone's watching this later. And if you're new to me watching this, I offer Akashic record sessions. I also offer mentorship. I work a lot with people with bringing their soul blueprint into the creation of their life, designing your life from your soul blueprint, not from these like gross caged in structures that are like the three options that we have in our society. So I use your soul blueprint to support you. And I do that through mentorship or also through individual sessions as well. And then the other passion I have is just teaching about the ancient feminine, which I do a lot on this channel. So I'd invite you to subscribe. And I also have several different courses working with some of the different aspects of integration of the ancient feminine. So we both can support you if you need any help or support, as there's so many other people as well. But if you feel drawn to either of us, feel free to reach out. Um, with that, is there anything that you would like to just say in closing, Soda?
Um, I think we've transmitted a lot, and so I just trust that it will be received in the way that it's meant to, um, and the people that need this information the most will find it, and that it may have the transformative effects in your life that you need. Um, and just remember that you're not alone, that we're all in it together, and you're supported and loved and guided, probably more than you.
Mm, I love that last line. Very, very true. Um, Please let us know what you think about it, what you're thinking about, what stuff is coming up for you in the comments. If you want to add anything to the conversation, please do. Because other people will read the comments as well, that even if, you're sharing that you're going through a really difficult time or something, when we're like having a really hard moment, knowing that we're not the only one in that space can be just comforting. While we want everybody to be in their, most joyous state, also knowing it's like a grueling process going through all of these different shifts. And yeah, so letting other people know how you're feeling about this material, because it's not easy material to integrate. It's not light and fluffy and airy and butterflies. This is like the real grit that we're moving through. But when we have other people around us to support us and guide us and be sisters in it together, it just makes it so much better. So thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much, Sitora, for being here as a very special guest today. And please make sure to give the video a like and subscribe if you're into this channel. Did you want to add something else?
Just gratitude. Thank you for the space.